We've been told by the New South Wales Premier to brace for more numbers today. Just how bad could this get?
Well, let's just examine the word bad. There's two ways of looking at this. One is that it's really scary, and one is that in some ways it's reassuring. So I choose to actually say that this is reassuring.
I thought you might.
Because they're digging out, through contact tracing, the enormous voluntary testing that's going on the northern beaches there in Sydney, that they are digging out the number of cases. I'd be more scared if they had an extra 2 today. That would suggest to me they're missing out. So this has been going for a few days now. You expect it to have spread through the community. You expect quite a lot of cases. And you want them to be dug out really early so that they can get onto it and get on top of it. If there were just dribbles of cases now, I'd be worried. But if there's going to be another slab of a large number of cases, it means the contact tracers are doing their job, they're finding them, and the good people of the northern beaches are doing their job too by coming forward for testing.
And do you think that the government response has been correct, with it being, if you're from the northern beaches local government area, which spans a pretty vast area, as far south as the Spit up to Palm Beach and as far west as Duffy's Forest, that those people isolate for 3 days, and then of course if you were at those venues there are harsher restrictions in place? Is that the right response, or should we be going further?
Well, you could argue about mandating, which is what they did in Adelaide. So the only thing that controls this virus, the only two things that control this virus are testing and contact tracing as a package, and social distancing and keeping away from other people to stop it spreading. So at a minimum, there should be mandated mask wearing. So a lot of people are wearing masks on the northern beaches, but that probably only gets you to 40 or 50%. We get to nearly 100% if you mandated masks. I had the mayor on Radio National Breakfast this morning, and he supported mandated masking. I mean, that's a really cheap, effective thing to do that reduces transmission by up to 70%. Shouldn't be pleading for people to wear masks. You should just be saying that's the rule. Wear them. So lockdown is a different issue. So it depends on how much you're pulling people off the streets and off the roads. Luckily, it's a Friday, so going into the weekend, that you should be able to socially distance quite a lot. But people should not be going into other people's homes. Homes are high risk. Should be really careful about cafes and other things, and only going out when they have to. But you could, unusually here, you can lock down that area of Sydney. There's only 2 or 3 roads in, and you could actually ring fence it quite effectively, unlike, say, Broadmeadows in Melbourne, which is an amorphous suburb with lots of little streets going through it, very hard to lock down. You could lock down this area quite effectively, and it's pretty self-sufficient. So you could actually isolate it quite well.
Do you expect the government might do that if we see the numbers balloon?
It depends on the number of cases where they don't know where they've come from. So if this is where the contact tracers can trace this back to a source, and I don't think they've got the source yet, but maybe that will emerge during the day. But if you get to the stage where they got to in Victoria, where they had a rising number of people, where they hadn't got a clue where these people caught it from, then that's when you want to go to lockdown. You want to go to lockdown early, and you may only have to do it for a short period of time.
So what do we know about where this originated? We heard from the Premier earlier today saying she believes it to be an international strain from genomic testing, but they're not quite sure how it jumped from that to being in the community.
Well, I've got no inside information on this, but from the genomic testing, they should be able to have a reasonable idea which country it came from. There are variations between countries in terms of the strains circulating. There's a new strain circulating in the United Kingdom. They should be able to say with a reasonable degree of certainty, came from America, this came from Europe, this came from Britain. And that will give them an idea of where it might have come from in terms of overseas visitors, quarantine, or indeed aircrew. I mean, there's a lot of aircrew that live on those northern beaches.
How long do you expect this to play out for? Not just the uncertainty, but the numbers that, we saw 17 cases last night, these numbers to continue. Is this something that we can nip in the bud like we saw in the South Australian experience, or do you expect it to play out a little bit longer?
It could play out a little bit longer. Modelling at the University of Sydney suggests every day that goes by when you've got spread equals a week at the other end. So I don't think you should expect this to really have been resolved by Christmas. If we're lucky, it will, but it's likely there's a long tail to it, and I suspect that at Christmas my prediction is, for what it's worth, because I've got no inside information, is that at Christmas it won't be fully resolved. We'll still have cases then, but it'll be getting better. but I don't think this is going to go away anytime soon because of the number of cases. They'll know where they're coming from, but they've got to track them down.
And finally, you mentioned Christmas there. A lot of people will be gathering inside people's homes, but you make the point just before that that is often the most dangerous place to be.
Christmas is a major super spreading event. So if there's virus circulating in New South Wales, Christmas is a real problem. And if it's got outside the northern suburbs, as it could have quite easily, there's still this man who was driving the bus in the southwest of Sydney. In southwest of Sydney, there's a question about whether we ever fully eliminated the virus in southwest Sydney. I think that Christmas could be a problem for the greater metropolitan Sydney, which probably means people should minimise the amount of travelling they've got. If they're going to have the family around, it's got to be outside, not inside. Don't rely on air conditioning because of cool air coming in, because it's just recycling the air inside the room. Get outside, spread out, and be careful.
Okay, Norman Swan, always good to talk to you. Thank you for your analysis and insight.
You're welcome, Catherine.